So right now I want to talk to you guys about this case that I made for the FireBoard system. Some of you had some questions about how it was made, the materials I used. The idea behind it was just giving me something that I could be modular with after I was done smoking on the master built 560. Because there's a lot of setup and tear down with putting the device in, taking the device out, and honestly I just wanted something I could unplug the probes, clean the probes, and take the device inside. As you see, it just fits in nicely with the probes on the outside. Open it up. Everything's in here. For the FireBoard controller, we have 4 ports on the outside for the probes. These are made possible by using the FireBoard extensions. And then on the back we have 2 DC in ports. One is a 5.5 millimeter by 2.1 for the power, and then one is 5.5 millimeters by 2.5 for the actual drive fan. So I know you guys really wanted to find out how this was put together. So we're going to walk through the steps and the parts. Let's get started. So first things first, we're going to need an Apache 1800 case from Harbor Freight. They run about $9.99. You can catch them on sale fairly cheap. A drill and a bit. Cable glands for the ports. 5.5 by 2.1 millimeter DC weatherproof jack. 5 by 2.5 millimeter DC jack. Some wire snips. And a corresponding pigtail for the DC jack inputs. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is remove the foam from the case. And then figure out which side we're going to place our ports on. I decided to do mine on the right hand side. It's just out of convenience for wire routing purposes. As well as the back for the DC ports, I didn't want to clutter up the right hand side. And also I went with these flush mount ports to allow me to be able to sit the case on its end. There's other ways you could do it with the same ports we use here, but on the back. But that wouldn't allow you to set the case down. So what we're going to do now is mark the line we're going to use to drill our holes. So here we are, sticker removed. It took a little bit of work and a heat gun. So what I did next was made this line so we could cut our holes. And all I did was took one of the pieces of foam and used it as a straight edge with a piece of marker, or with a marker, and just laid the marker flat and just slowly drug across. You can use a ruler, square, whatever you want to do, or just eyeball it. I purchased this step-up bit, which allowed me to get all of the holes without having to change. We're going to need a 3/8, a 5/8, and a 7/16. So right now the first drill, or the first hole we're going to drill, is actually 5/8. And all I would suggest is to space them out evenly. Put one at one end, one at the other, and try to eyeball in between. These are called cable glands, and the size that I found The size that I found that fit are the PG9 size. One thing to note, the washer that fits along with this does not fit. The thickness of the case is actually too thick to allow the nut to bite. I just drilled a little bit more. I wasn't quite at the 5/8 mark, so the nipple wouldn't fit in there. Let's try this again. Boom. So then you just screw the back on. And there you have it. So then you just drill 3 more, do the exact same thing. I'm gonna do those real fast and then get back to you and show you how I did the extension ports. So the next thing we'll need is this probe extension that you can buy off the FireBoard website. It's 6 feet long. You might be able to purchase these somewhere else. I just haven't been able to find the right size anywhere. So what we're gonna do is take the end that we'll plug into the FireBoard and pull out this rubber washer that's inside and place it over. And then just pull it down. Pull it all the way back so you get to that point. And then we're just gonna throw this in here. One thing you'll notice is when you try to put this on, it doesn't go over. So what we have to do is just expand this hole a little bit. And using the step tool, super easy. Just took it up 1 step from where it was. And now that guy fits right in there. So we push it in. And there you have it. So we're gonna do the other 4 really fast and we'll get back to you. All right, we got the last one in. Now let's just finish screwing this down. And when you actually screw them down, it clamps on the extension. And that's why it can't move at all. It's stuck in there. So what we're gonna do is just wrap these cords up, get rid of some of the slack. We're gonna leave, say, probably about 9 inches on the end to allow room to maneuver inside the case. And I'm just using the same cable ties that came with the extension probes. There's one. All right, that's complete. Next thing we have to do is add the ports for the DC inputs. So we're gonna do the same thing and mark a line for where we're gonna drill. We're gonna use one of our pieces of foam again. Grab the marker. Draw a line. A little more straight. All right. So I guess it doesn't really matter where these sit. I would say put them far enough apart where they don't get in the way of one another. But honestly, I mean, they're pretty small. And most of the inputs are going to be a straight input and not a right angle. So you don't really need to worry about too much room back and forth. So we're going to use the step bit again. This is why it's so convenient. We can do everything with just this thing. I think it was $6 at Harbor Freight. So this one is going to be 7/16, and it is 1, 2, 3, 4 steps down. And that's going to allow us to insert these. I'm going to use my thumb as a reference point. And that's done. Let's see if this guy fits. Boom. Let's do the other one. Not much science behind where we're marking at. Well, clean up some of this mess. All right, we're back now. As you can see, we have the two DC jacks done. Now we're gonna solder on the pigtail. This is actually gonna allow you to connect into the FireBoard drive system. You can purchase pigtails on Amazon. They have them for a pack. Just make sure you buy one that corresponds to the right size. There's 5.5 by 2.5 for the fan input. I don't think you can see. But 5.5 by 2.5 for the fan input, 5.5 by 2.1 for the actual 12 volt in. So when you purchase those, they will come red and black. You won't have to worry about which one's positive and which one's negative. Just connect them how you normally would. Red to red, black to black. So what I do, I offset, as you can see. This is a little offset, as is this side. So that's going to allow us to connect these and just use one heat shrink tube to make it nice and clean. You guys can solder however you want. This is just the way that I do it. It allows for the cleanest, simplest job. The other thing you can do, which I got to show you guys, is they actually make these extensions. So just like the probe extensions, you can actually just use the nipples here, probably the bigger size. This pack comes with multiple different sizes. Yeah, it actually fits in here fairly good. Looks like you have to do the same thing and just drill out some of that to allow this to fit. But for me, I just wanted to do something that was simple and clean, and I could set it down. If you put those ports on, you won't be able to set it down. But it's up to you. If you don't want to solder, do it that way. So we're just going to connect. We're going to actually put our heat shrink tube down over both of these first. And then we're going to connect our wires. Now it's time to solder. You're going to want to put some solder on the tip. Just make sure your solder gun is heated up all the way. We're going to put some solder on the tip. And again, those who aren't comfortable soldering, it's fine. You can just get the extensions and just do it that way. Pull up the shrink wrap. I have a heat gun. You guys can also use a lighter if you'd like. It works either way. And I'll do the other one and get right back. So now we have to figure out how to get the foam in. We'll throw a hole in for the drive cord to come up through over here. And there you have it. You can just plug them in. Figure out which ones need to take the slack out. Pretty much all of them. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is make sure we have our extension cords in the right port. So to do that, we're just going to grab a probe and stick it into port number 1 and make sure that it says channel number 1. That says channel number 2. So what that means is port 1 is actually plugged into 2, so we're going to switch that. There we go. Let's do number 2. There we go. Let's see if we get lucky for number 3. Nope. So 3 and 4 have to switch. So there we go, number 3 and number 4. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is just create a little space for the controller to sit down inside the cushion so that when we close it, it'll close all the way. So let's do that real fast. Unhook this. And the easiest way to do it is to count over the squares, pull the foam out, and then take out the squares around the foam. Alright, so one thing I didn't like was the way the foam was sitting. It was just a little uneven. So what I did was just took out the foam around the drive board. This is going to allow us to put in this second piece. And it's going to sit more flush. So here's the final piece of foam that we're going to put down. I'm going to unhook the drive board, pull the cable up, put that guy in there. Tuck the cords down. And plug it in. And there you go. Fits perfectly. Very modular. I'll probably label these so I don't get them mixed up. You can slightly tell the difference between the size. It's very small. This is the drive. This is actually the 12 volt. Like I said, you guys can use this for the DC input if you don't want to solder anything. Maybe put it out the other side. I just opted for these because I don't have a problem with soldering, and I just like the clean look and these pretty sweet weatherproof plugs. Alright guys, that's it. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll be glad to help and answer anything that you may have. I'll put a parts list. I'd say the cost is a little pricey for it. I don't know the numbers exactly. The probes themselves, the probe extensions, were about $30 shipped. And then a lot of this stuff I had on my own, so I didn't have to purchase the case, and the probe extensions were probably the biggest cost. These Gland kits were about $10, and I think that's it. That's all I had to purchase. But yeah,